Halfway down the hallway toward the bridal room when I caught Marissa's voice. Sharp, clipped, with that fake warm tone she always used when she was about to trash someone under the banner of concern. "I mean, he parks cars," she said. "That's not a career. That's holding space until someone better shows up." She was talking to one of their aunts, the one with the stiff hair and pearls, who always looked like she smelled something bad. They were just outside the coat closet. I was behind the door, one step from the corner. "I still can't believe she's going through with it," Marissa said, like it was a tragedy. "I mean, look at that tux. It's optimistic. He's plateaued. They'll probably end up in some converted attic over somebody's garage. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which city or country you're tuning in from. Let's see where everyone's watching today." Thanks, and here's the story. I felt my jaw lock. I wanted to walk around that corner and lay it all out. The money, the name, the building I just bought. But I didn't. I stood still, like a damn ghost in my own wedding day. My name's Grant Nolan. I'm 55 now. But this started back in April 2007 when I was 37, the week I was supposed to start a new chapter. What I got instead was a first warning shot from the Keene family. On paper, I was a dock hand working night shifts at a cross-docking yard outside Worcester. Paid the bills. I also parked cars at Fenway on game nights. Not glamorous, but it kept my mind sharp and my hands moving. What I didn't advertise? I'm the maternal grandson of Walter Keller. Yeah, Keller Cold Chain and Logistics. The company behind those long silver reefer trucks and massive bonded warehouses you see off the turnpike. He built it from one truck to 3 states of infrastructure. He's the reason I started in the yard at 22, learning from the bottom, stacking pallets, riding forklifts, taking shifts on dispatch and maintenance. I never led with that. People smell money and start acting weird. Lila knew. My fiancée. She knew everything. We agreed to keep it quiet until after the wedding. She liked that I showed up for her, not what I could buy her. That's what made me love her. Her family. Whole different universe. Her mom, Lorraine, smiled with her teeth and judged with her eyes. Marissa, her older sister, ran charity boards like film festivals and could cut your dignity in half with a single word. We were doing things our way. Small church in Shrewsbury. No ice sculpture, no DJ. Just vows, family, and food after. I liked it simple. Lila liked that it felt real. And then, that hallway hit. Lila walked in 5 minutes later, dress still zipped halfway, hair done up, but her cheeks were red and tight. "She's being a brat," she said. "Ignore her." I handed her the coffee. "I've ignored worse," I said. But it hit harder than I wanted to admit. I'd grown up being the kid who liked spreadsheets more than scrapping. People called me soft. Now here I was, grown, built from the floor up, and I was still hearing it. My best man, Victor, showed up next, clapped me on the shoulder. "You'll laugh about this in 10 years, he said. He looked jumpy, like he'd already seen something coming. I figured he was just wired from all the prep. Before the ceremony, my grandfather handed me a small folded note. His handwriting was tight and square, like his knuckles. "Keep your word. Let people show you who they are." I put it in my inside pocket. I told Lila I loved her. I told her we'd ride out whatever circus her sister tried to start. "She won't," Lila said. I nodded. Looking back, I should have known better. We walked down the aisle like nothing happened, but everyone knew. You could feel it clinging to the air, thicker than incense, tighter than the knot in my gut. The church was packed, maybe 120 people, give or take a few latecomers, half from Lila's side, half from mine, with a few Keller drivers dressed in stiff collars, tucked way in the back like they didn't want to be seen. Some of those guys had seen me stack pallets through snowstorms in 12-hour shifts. They sat quiet and proud, probably just there to support my grandfather, but I noticed every nod they gave me. Silent, steady, the kind of people who don't fake clap just because a cake got cut. The priest moved slow, voice steady, hands shaking just enough to make me nervous. My palms were sweaty. Lila's hand was locked in mine, light, but tight. She kept her eyes on me, smiling like she was trying to hold the whole moment together on sheer will. I wanted to believe we were through the worst of it. We were 2 lines away from vows when he got to that cursed line. "If anyone here knows of any reason why these two should not be joined," I swear I felt Lorraine sit up before it happened. Her whole spine straightened like she was bracing for impact, not to stop it, but to pose for the camera. Then Marissa stood. No hesitation, like she'd been planning it. Chin up, lips pursed like she was about to pitch waterfront property. She didn't even blink before saying it. "This is a mistake," she said. "Lila, you're marrying a guy who parks cars." Every head turned so fast I heard the damn air move. Some gasped. Some looked like they were waiting for a director to yell, "Cut." My cousin Devin smirked from 3 rows back like it was a scene out of a movie. My ears lit up, neck hot. I didn't move. I felt Lila's grip go tight. The priest turned pale, looked like he wanted to hide behind his binder. I didn't say a word. Neither did my grandfather. He didn't even flinch. Just watched Marissa, lips straight, eyes dead flat like he'd seen 100 people like her walk into boardrooms thinking they owned the place. But Marissa wasn't finished. "You're smart," she kept going, like it was a compliment. "You could do better. This is pathetic." Nobody interrupted. Not the priest, not Lorraine, not even the aunt she'd been gossiping with earlier. Just gasps and frozen stares. The sound of someone's bracelet sliding down their wrist as they crossed their arms. Lorraine finally made a noise, half whisper, half theater. "Marissa." She drew it out like she was coaching restraint, like she was the reasonable one in the scene. It was all performance. I looked at Lila. Her eyes were wide, mouth slightly open, lips dry. She whispered, "Do we stop?" I shook my head. No. I didn't care how many gasped or stared or what they expected next. We were not giving her what she wanted. Not a pause, not a plea, not a spotlight she didn't earn. The priest cleared his throat. "Shall we continue?" I looked him dead on and said, "Yes." No stutter, no hesitation, just that one word, loud enough to carry. Marissa exhaled like she was disappointed we didn't cave. Then she tossed her program on the floor like it was a mic drop. The sound of it hitting the tile echoed up the aisle. Her heels snapped on the stone as she turned and walked out, head high, like someone storming out of a hearing, not a wedding. Nobody clapped, nobody moved. We kept going. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and kissed. It felt more like crossing a finish line at a marathon than floating into a honeymoon. I remember thinking, this should feel like joy, but it felt like stubborn survival. As we turned to face the guests, everyone tried to smile, but their eyes gave it away. They didn't know what to do. I saw a few mouths open like they were about to say something, then just freeze. People clapped, but it was the kind of clapping you hear at a tense PTA meeting when the bell rings. Polite, uncertain, ready to bolt. We walked down the aisle, arm in arm, and I could feel the stares on my back the whole way. The door opened. Light hit our faces, and just like that, we were outside. The air was cooler than I expected. It cut through the heat building up behind my ears. The receiving line formed fast. Hugs, handshakes, congratulations, all layered with fake smiles and way too much eye contact. Marissa was nowhere in sight. Lorraine reached us eventually, all porcelain and pearls, hugged Lila too long, then gave me one of those stiff embraces where the arms touch but the body stays back. "We just want what's best," she said into my ear. That line. I've heard it 1,000 ways from 100 mouths. "We just want what's best" always means we want our version of best, and it ain't you. I let her finish the hug. Lila pulled away first. Lorraine gave a little pat on my lapel like she was brushing off lint, then turned to smile at the next guest in line before I could answer. Victor walked up behind her and gave me a look, halfway between, "Are you good?" and "What the hell was that?" I didn't respond. He didn't ask out loud, just nodded, gave Lila a short hug and said, "We're going to talk about this one in 20 years. We made it to the end of the line. Photos came next, but they felt rushed. Lila smiled for the camera, but I could tell her brain was somewhere else. I kissed her temple between shots. She leaned into me, but didn't say anything. I didn't need her to. I already knew what was sitting in her chest. The same thing sitting in mine. We got through it. And for the moment, that had to be enough. The drive to Fitchburg was mostly quiet. Lila leaned her head against the passenger window, bouquet in her lap, veil pinned back, breathing like she was trying to keep something inside from spilling out. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting on her knee, just holding. No music, no small talk, just silence and the sound of the road. The building came into view like a punchline that hadn't landed yet. Keller's old ice house, restored brick by brick, uplighting along the side, polished trailers lined like chess pieces at the edge of the lot, all spotless, all shining. Reefer rigs don't usually get that kind of treatment, but tonight wasn't usual. We rent the place under a different LLC, just enough separation to keep the name off the front page. Events, fundraisers, low-key corporate mixers, clean money, local focus. For this, I pulled strings, paid full rate, no favors. It was ours for the night. Lila's side arrived in waves, Audis and Lexuses pulling into the yard like the drivers expected to be redirected. Then confusion, then whispering. "This is a trucking place? Wait, are those refrigerated trailers? How'd they afford this?" I heard it all. Nobody said it loud, but that's the thing about doubt. It doesn't need volume to sting. The warehouse crew was inside, folding napkins and lighting votives like they'd been born to it. I spotted Kenny, our oldest dock guy, adjusting place cards in a tie so tight I thought he'd pass out. He looked proud and maybe a little out of place, which, in a weird way, made me feel like I belonged even more. The band warmed up near the back riser, small brass setup, upright bass, nothing cheesy. No line dances, no conga line, just clean, live sound that filled the rafters without screaming over them. Marissa showed up half an hour late, hair done like a magazine shoot, dressed tight and spotless. She paused in the doorway like she was waiting for cameras. Then her eyes landed on the Keller logos engraved into the old brick behind the bar. I watched her blink, like someone just read the punchline before she could. My grandfather didn't wait. He came in through the loading ramp with my mom on his arm, walking like his knees hurt, but he didn't care. He didn't stop for anyone. Came straight to me and Lila, hugged her first, held her like she was already blood. Then he turned to me, both hands on my shoulders, grip firm. "Proud of you, kid," he said, loud enough to carry past the nearest few tables. That changed the air. People started noticing him. Not because of some name tag or introduction, but because older men at tables stopped talking and sat straighter. A couple guests nudged each other. Walter Keller doesn't do parties. He does numbers. He does deals. But tonight, he was here. Lorraine blinked like her contact lenses were out of place. Then she smiled. That kind of slow realization smile like she'd just solved a logic puzzle too late to take credit for. Marissa's mouth formed a tight little O before flattening out. Her champagne glass tilted just enough to catch the light. I watched her eyes flinch like she'd figured out the joke and realized she was the punchline. Walter turned to them. No pause, no ceremony. "I'm Walter Keller," he said. "Grant's grandfather." That hung there a second. Some folks froze like a freight train was coming and they weren't sure whether to wave or run. Marissa said, "Keller, like the trucks?" Walter nodded. "And the warehouses. And the rail dock you pass on I-190, that too." He turned to me. "You still owed me dishes in Dock 3, he said, smiling just barely. "But I'll let you off tonight." Some people laughed, real laughs. My crew cracked up. They knew that story. I'd broken a box of mangoes back in 2001 and had to mop the whole freezer for it. Twice. I scanned the crowd, caught Victor's face, not smiling. Eyes a little too wide. He looked surprised, then off, annoyed even. Then he checked his phone. 3 times in under a minute. I filed that away. Walter picked up a glass and tapped it with his ring. No microphone. He didn't need one. "To the only grandson I ever made mop a freezer floor twice," he said. He stuck it out. He didn't cut lines that landed. I watched Marissa closely. Her champagne glass tipped again. Just a little. Her jaw tightened. She wasn't looking at Walter. She was looking at me. Something in her expression broke, like she was trying to remember who had told her I wasn't worth it, and suddenly realized it had been her own voice. She walked over later, slow, like the floor was different now. She kept her voice low. "You let me make a fool of myself," she said, eyes not quite meeting mine. I said, "No one made you." That was it. Lorraine recovered quick. She always does. Stepped in with that brittle grace and said, "Well, we didn't know." Which always means, we would have acted nicer if we'd known you were connected. I didn't respond. She wasn't owed one. The rest of the night blurred. Toasts, cake, dancing. But that moment, that shift in tone, stayed with me. Every room has a center of gravity. That moment, it moved. And not because of a name, because the truth showed up in a suit and work boots and told the story nobody expected. We didn't win anything. We didn't throw it in their faces. We just stood there while the facts settled in, slow and steady, like ice forming in a deep freezer. The music started soft, light strumming, drums brushed with wire. The band kicked into a Buddy Holly cover, and someone dimmed the overheads just enough to soften the concrete floor. Our first dance. I've never liked being watched. I'm stiff when I dance, always have been. But Lila looked at me like I was the only man in the room. One hand on her waist, the other in her palm, she leaned in close and whispered, "Just don't step on the dress." I said, "Can't make any promises." She laughed, forehead against my cheek. That song mattered to her. Her dad used to play Buddy Holly on Sunday mornings. Eggs in the pan, dog barking, windows open even in March. He passed before I met her, but I felt like I'd known him through the music, the way she carried it. I moved in slow circles, half conscious of where Marissa was. She hadn't left. Of course not. People like her don't walk away from good food and a room full of people they think they can still sway. She sat near the edge of the crowd, glass in hand, chin tilted just enough to look reflective. It was her apology face. Not regret. Not real. Just chin tucked, mouth pinched in, eyes glancing upward like she was waiting for a photographer who never came. I had Keller folks at the loading bay. Not security, not officially, but guys who know gate codes and watch patterns. Habit more than paranoia. Some of them couldn't help it. They've lived through warehouse leaks, fuel theft. Even a guy once caught hot wiring a generator during a vendor event. You get cautious after stuff like that. You don't shout about it, you just watch. Walter stood off to the side while the song finished, talking to nobody but watching everybody. Eventually people started lining up to shake his hand. Not because he asked, but because when someone like him walks into a room, people want a reason to be remembered. He shook every hand the same way. Firm. Quick. Look you in the eye. Say your name back. He didn't hold court. He took inventory. You could see it in the way his head tilted, like he was filing names, matching them to values. Lorraine floated from table to table in that linen wrap she probably thought screamed elegance. She told different versions of the same line. "We're all one family now." I heard her say it 3 separate ways to 3 separate people. Her smile never reached her eyes. She looked for cameras that weren't there. Victor? He was in and out. Slipped away to take calls twice during dinner, once during the toasts. Came back every time with the same fake grin and the same vague excuse. Just work stuff. When I asked what kind of work, he shrugged like I'd asked him about the weather. Then he handed me a drink and said, "Congrats, man." Seriously, like the word tasted bitter. The food slapped. No other way to put it. Steak tips grilled in the back lot, squash roasted with oil and sea salt, and the macaroni. I don't know what Cheryl put in it, but that thing could have ended wars. Our kitchen crew always shows off when Walter's around. They know he eats like he evaluates trucks. Eyes closed, nose sharp, silent judgment. Toward the end of the night, while the last round of coffee was going out, Walter stood. No toast in hand this time, just a butter knife in his glass. Ting, ting. People hushed. Forks paused midair. Even the band stopped tuning. "Grant's going to run our central hub in Leominster starting next winter," he said. That was it. It hadn't been public. Not even Lila knew the timeline was finalized. My stomach dropped. Good and bad at the same time. Good, because it was the kind of trust I'd spent 15 years earning. Bad because now the spotlight shifted. Applause broke out. Honest, awkward, scattered applause. Some folks clapped because they meant it. Some clapped because they were trying to recover from earlier judgments. I didn't care which was which. Lila squeezed my hand. She cried a little, hugged Walter hard. He patted her shoulder twice like she was a teammate coming off the bench. "Marissa?" Her face didn't move, like she'd just lost a bet and didn't know how far the consequences went. I could feel her eyes trying to measure how badly she'd misplayed it. Lorraine leaned in, too close, and said, "Well, you'll need a real house now." Like we hadn't already closed on the condo. Like we were squatting in someone's attic with milk crates for chairs. I didn't even answer. Lila gave her a look I hadn't seen before, polite but lethal. Lorraine backed off. Later, as things wound down, Walter stopped at the exit, coat over one shoulder, hat in hand. He paused by Marissa, looked her straight on and said, "You can make this right." You know how she didn't ask what he meant. Just nodded once. The kind of nod people give when they've already run out of ways to dodge it. We helped clear tables, loaded leftover trays into the prep cooler, thanked every single person on the kitchen crew by name. That's how we do it. No one leaves without a handshake. It was almost midnight by the time I stepped outside for air. The lot was empty, just trailers lined up in rows, silent under the floodlights. I walked along the gravel, past the edge of the building, out to the dock ramp where I could see the river. The air was sharp, cold in the lungs, the smell of diesel and concrete. Some folks hate it, say it stinks of labor and sweat and grit. Not me. That smell? That smell was home. Months later, June 2008, after a dock check, I sat on the balcony of our condo with a lukewarm beer and my boots still on. The smell of diesel was still in my clothes, and I liked it that way. Lila came out, wrapped in a blanket, hair pulled back, her eyes scanning the quiet parking lot below us. We didn't talk much. Just listened to the hum of trucks rolling past the river, the buzz of something mechanical still spinning in my head. Everything was tightening. Markets, credit lines, shipments, felt like the whole country was holding its breath. I was on nights by then, running routing models to keep product moving during heat surges. Reefer loads don't wait, not in a summer like that one. I was tired, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind where you know your sweat meant something. Then, out of nowhere, Lorraine called Lila. 3 times before lunch. I was asleep for the first 2, and awake for the third. Lila put her on speaker without asking. "It's bad," Lorraine said. Her voice wasn't controlled like usual. It was cracked, like the varnish had finally worn off. We sat there listening while she stammered through it. Damon, Marissa's husband, had been mixing client funds. Real clients, real money, falsified docs, ghost accounts. The kind of thing you see in those white-collar crime shows people fall asleep to, thinking it's all victimless. This wasn't a slap on the wrist. There were agents, boxes being pulled from offices, computers bagged, real charges, real numbers. By Friday, their bank accounts were frozen. The Audi lease got pulled so fast it was almost funny. Lorraine's so-called liquidity vanished into thin air. Turned out it was just a second mortgage and some foggy promises from Damon about a Q4 bounce back. Lila didn't say much, She just hung up and sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the counter like it might give her a strategy. That night, just past 10, there was a knock on our condo door. I opened it to find Marissa standing there, hair pulled into a sloppy knot, makeup gone, holding a suitcase that looked too light for what she'd just walked away from. Her mouth didn't move at first. She just stood there like she was waiting for us to fill in the words for her. Lila stepped in beside me, quietly. "I need somewhere to land," Marissa said. Her voice was low, almost like she wasn't sure she was allowed to speak at full volume anymore. She stared at the floor, not us, like she was in someone else's house, asking for a place to hide. Lila didn't blink. She just looked at me. I shrugged once, slowly. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't need a debate. This wasn't charity. This was a line in the sand. If we opened the door, we weren't going to coddle. We set her up on the couch, blankets, pillow. Lila grabbed her a toothbrush from the guest drawer. She didn't ask for money, not then. She didn't ask for anything, just curled up under the throw blanket like a stray animal and stared out the dark window. She cried without sound, one tear at a time, no sobbing, no apology. I made grilled cheese because that's what I do when I don't know what else to offer. Bread, butter, cheese pan, simple, cheap, warm. She ate like it was the only thing she'd had all day. Next morning, I brewed coffee while Lila flipped pancakes. The mood was still heavy, but lighter than the night before, the kind of light you only get after a collapse, when there's nothing left to pretend about. I sat across from Marissa at the table. She hadn't brushed her hair. She looked like a person who'd walked through fire and realized the door was locked behind her. "I can put you in the place above the River Street warehouse," I said. "It's not big. Studio, hot plate, shower that runs hot if you don't take too long. It's safe, and it's yours if you want it." She blinked when I said warehouse. It didn't match her old expectations. You could see it on her face, that flicker of discomfort. But it passed. "There's a condition," I added, pouring another cup. "You work. You start at the bottom. You learn what freezes and what breaks. No shortcuts, no special treatment. You badge in like the rest of us." She looked up for the first time, confused. "I can plan events," she said, like it was a defense. "Great," I replied. "Learn to pull an order." She sat still for a few seconds, then nodded once, like the words had finally landed where they needed to. Not on her pride, but underneath it. That okay she gave me? It wasn't flippant or soft. It was the kind of okay you give when you don't have any cards left in your hand. The kind of okay that means you've stopped bluffing. Lila reached under the table and squeezed my hand. We didn't smile. We weren't celebrating, but we were on the same page. Help, but not for show. No cameras, no rescue fantasies, just a studio over a cold dock and a job that started with steel toes and pallet jacks. That weekend, I took her over to River Street myself, carried her suitcase up the stairs while she looked around in silence. She didn't complain about the rail noise or the view of the loading bays. She didn't ask about amenities or finishes. Just walked in, set the bag down, and looked at me. "When do I start?" she asked. "Monday, 4 a.m. "Okay." I nodded once, then left her to it. Her first morning, she showed up 5 minutes early in jeans that looked like they hadn't seen a warehouse floor in their life, and boots that were new enough to squeak. I didn't meet her at the door. Jay did. That was the deal. No special tours, no pep talks. She got the same walkthrough every new hire gets: restrooms, lockers, break room, safety binder. We moved her into the warehouse studio the weekend before. One room, one window, hot plate, a fridge that hummed louder than it cooled, and a view of a rail line that rattled by at 2 a.m. if the corn came in late. She didn't complain. She didn't ask if there was Wi-Fi or storage or a better view. She asked what time shift change was and where to buy gloves that wouldn't split. By Tuesday, she tore her thumb open on the serrated edge of a box of frozen strawberries. Not a huge cut, but it bled fast. I was on the mezzanine doing inventory review when I saw her wrap it in blue shop towel and duct tape. She didn't tell Jay. She didn't try to get out of anything. The next morning she showed up with a real bandage on and a backup in her pocket. That's how I knew something had shifted. She learned to badge in and out without the usual 2-week stumble. Learned to stack by weight, not by color. Learned to rotate stock by code date, not just what looked oldest. Learned that greens don't go near onions unless you like angry chefs and bad Yelp reviews. She wrote everything down on a little pocket notepad, the kind Walter used to carry when he was still running shifts in his 50s. On her third day, she ran a pallet jack into the yellow bollard by Dock 6. Not hard, just loud. Half the line turned to look. I was up top again, watching. Didn't say a word. She backed it up, adjusted her angle, and did the same run again, slower. This time, no bump. I didn't offer advice unless she asked. No lessons, no metaphors, no sit-downs about grit or legacy. Shop talk stayed simple. Location numbers, bay timing, product sensitivity. Nothing more than she needed to know to survive the shift. But she asked. A lot. Why are temps different on two sides of the same box? What's the difference between a SIL and a lock? If the print on the manifest doesn't match the case number, what gets priority? She wasn't asking to impress. She was asking to stay employed. Twice a week she'd come up to the condo for dinner. Nothing formal, just pasta, salad, whatever we threw together between shifts. First couple times, she barely said 10 words. Just ate, drank, listened. By the third week, she started bringing a 6-pack of store-brand seltzer. Flavors no one asked for, cucumber lime, pear ginger. But it was the gesture that mattered. Lila lined them up in the fridge like trophies. One Thursday night, Lorraine showed up at the warehouse, drove herself in a 2-door that coughed up the hill. She wore low heels, long scarf, and the expression of someone who'd never stood on concrete longer than 5 minutes. Security radioed me before she even got out of the car. I met her near the back dock. "Is she safe?" Lorraine asked. "She's not in danger," I said. She nodded slowly, like she was translating that into something she could process. We walked the line for a few minutes. She made polite comments about how organized everything looked, but when a forklift beeped and reversed nearby, she flinched and stepped behind me. She left in under 20 minutes. Didn't say goodbye to Marissa. Didn't ask to. After that, something changed in Marissa. Not big, but noticeable. One night she posted online under a local delivery thread where people were complaining about delays. She wrote, "They're not just boxes. They're people's dinners, their insulin, their school lunches. Show a little respect." I read it twice. Never brought it up. She didn't either. Around week 8, Jay pulled me aside. "She's not the worst new hire I've had," he said, voice flat. From Jay, that's a standing ovation. We started giving her window runs, expeditor duty, handle the last-mile handoffs, coordinate between dock crew and driver schedules. It's a pressure job, juggling too many variables, and 2 thermal printers that jam if you so much as breathe near them. She didn't flinch. Even when the frozen fish order went to the wrong truck and the driver blew up about delays, she took the hit, rerouted it, and apologized without falling apart. She never cried at work. Not once. If she did, it wasn't where anyone saw it. When she messed up, she owned it. No deflection. No panic. Just logged it, fixed it, moved on. After one mix-up with a dry goods order, she took painter's tape from the utility closet and started marking out new staging zones on the floor for the temps. Didn't ask permission, just did it. Saved half an hour the next day. Big brain move. It was strange seeing her like that. Shoulders hunched, boots scuffed, hair tied up with a rubber band. Not a single trace of the polished woman who once mocked my tucks and whispered about garages. But it wasn't sad. It was something else. Something like truth. I never told her good job. That wasn't how we did things in the warehouse. You showed up. You earned your spot. You got called out when you screwed up and left alone when you didn't. And she kept showing up. By the 6th month, she moved like she belonged. Didn't mean she got special treatment, but she didn't need anyone holding her hand anymore. She could do inbound paperwork without asking Jay every 5 minutes. Could rotate stock by herself and flag slow movers without a second glance. Could call a carrier rep on her own and not sound like she was begging for grace. That last one took time. Carrier reps don't give you respect just because you answer the phone. You earn it by not flinching when they bark. I watched her one morning from the mezzanine. Some new temp was fumbling with a pallet jack. Classic posture mistake. Both hands forward, pulling at the wrong angle. Marissa stepped in slow. No lecture, no eye roll. Just placed her hands lightly on the kids like she was teaching a nephew to ride a bike. Hold, then lift, she said. You're stronger than you think. The kid nodded and reset. Got it right the second time. She didn't even smile, just moved on to her next task. That was when Walter showed up. Didn't tell me he was coming. Just walked in through the dock like he still had shift keys. He stood at the mezz railing beside me, arms crossed, chewing on a toothpick like it was a cigar. We watched her work for 10 minutes without a word between us. Then he said, "She still talk too much?" I said, "Less." He nodded once. Not approval, just acknowledgement. Then he walked down the stairs, hands in his pockets, and stopped her near Dock 9. He asked 3 questions. Straightforward stuff. How we were tracking shrink this month, what her take was on aisle congestion by outbound, and whether she thought the new tape codes were helping on night shift. She answered like it was an exam she'd been expecting. Short, clear, no fluff. He didn't interrupt, just listened with that same carpenter face he always had when someone told him a number that didn't add up. Then he patted her once on the shoulder and moved on. He didn't say a word to me on the way out. End of that week, we got word that our night manager at River Street had been poached. Guy jumped ship to a new cold dock opening in Joliet, Illinois. Better title, bigger paycheck, probably more headaches. I wasn't mad. Walter wasn't either, but he hates losing people. He always said, "We don't trap folks. We build spots they don't want to leave." That left us with a hole. Big one. Traditionally, we promote a lead from inside. But our top guy was still 6 months from ready, and Jay flat out refused to do mornings. Said he was a vampire and not to test him. I didn't. So I went to Walter's office the next morning. No prep, just walked in. I want to give Marissa the night shift at River Street. Acting lead, 90-day trial. No last names on the whiteboard. He didn't react at first. Just squinted at me over his glasses. "Your in-law?" he asked. "Yeah." "If she fails?" I said. "Then she fails." He leaned back in his chair, scratched the corner of his jaw like he was weighing metal, then nodded once. 90 days, he said, and she eats it if it breaks. Agreed. I brought her the keys at the end of shift. Didn't sugarcoat it. "This isn't a promotion," I said. "It's an open lane. You either take it or you stay where you are." She looked at the keys like they were heavier than they looked. Then she took them and nodded. No big speech, no smile, just business. By the next morning, she had a wall calendar taped up by the whiteboard. Color-coded for audit weeks, distributor promos, vendor lock-ins. She printed a new shift list with legible fonts and double-spaced load targets. I didn't ask her to. She just did it. The crew looked at her sideways for the first week. Some didn't trust it. They remembered her walking in with fresh nails and no calluses. But when she showed up on time, stayed late, and didn't duck when things got hot, they adjusted. One night, freezer 2 ticked off temp by 2 degrees at 3:11 a.m. Could have been nothing. Could have ruined 20 grand of dairy. She was there in under 5 minutes, coat on, flashlight in hand. Turned out to be a vent blocked by a pallet with soft packaging. She corrected the placement, logged it, and filed it with maintenance by 3:30. No loss. She didn't tell anyone. I only knew because I checked the log the next day. She stopped wearing makeup to work. Wasn't a statement. Just focus. Most people didn't notice. I did. Walter came by once during her second week. Said nothing to me. Just walked the floor, watched a few cycles, and left. When I called him later, he said, "Still not failing." The third week, one of the swing shift drivers started pushing back, questioning her schedule choices, claiming load order delays. Instead of escalating, she invited him to walk the flow with her. They traced the timing, checked stamps, and found that he was the one off by 27 minutes due to a dispatcher note he never read. She didn't gloat, just fixed the schedule and moved on. That was when the shift started following her without resistance. She wasn't perfect, still got things wrong, missed a cutoff once by 6 minutes and had to reroute a truck. But she didn't make excuses, just stood in it and took the hit. And the crew? They watched. Always. You don't win people with titles. You win them by sweating through the same problems and not flinching when they stare at you for answers. Marissa had finally figured that out. She didn't ask for praise, didn't drop hints, didn't fish. She earned every square foot she stood on. And for the first time, I stopped thinking of her as Lila's sister who wrecked our wedding day. She was just the night lead at River Street. The Saturday before the leaves really started to drop, we held the annual Keller Fall picnic at the old reservoir park off Route 2. Same spot we'd used for decades. Big charcoal grills, patchy grass, metal folding chairs older than me, and a horseshoe pit Walter refused to fix because imperfections test character. Lila was the one who said it. We should invite your mom and Marissa. I didn't argue. You build bridges or you don't. Complaining about the river never helped anybody. We set up early. Jay brought the smoker trailer and started seasoning the ribs like he was prepping for a competition. Drivers showed up in bunches, kids in tow, wives balancing paper plates and baby wipes. You'd never know some of those guys spent their nights in 80,000-pound reefers rolling across 3 states. They just looked like regular dads drinking cheap beer and waiting on burgers. Lorraine arrived around noon, floating across the grass in a linen outfit too bright for the setting. Big sunglasses and a purse that probably cost more than the meat budget. She smiled at everyone like she'd met them before. She hadn't. Marissa came 10 minutes later. No makeup, ponytail tight, jeans and steel toes, grease streak on her cheek she hadn't noticed. Hands nicked up, one of her knuckles taped. She walked like she had somewhere to be, even when she didn't. 3 of our drivers recognized her right away. "Hey, boss," one of them called out from behind the soda cooler. She blushed and held up a hand. "Don't call me that in public," she said, half laughing, half pleading. They grinned. She belonged to them now, and they knew it. Lorraine didn't notice at first. She was too busy walking the perimeter like she was judging an estate sale. Then she spotted me near the grill and made a beeline. She pulled me aside with 2 fingers on my elbow like I was a waiter in her summer house. "Marissa says she's managing a shift now," she said, quiet but sharp. "She is," I said. There was a pause. You could see her run through every possible response. Deny it, disbelieve it, dismiss it, but none of them landed. She swallowed hard, face neutral, then nodded once like she'd bitten down on something sharp. After that, she walked over to Marissa and handed her a paper plate with a burger on it like she was presenting a crown. Marissa looked stunned but took it. No words passed between them. Didn't need to. Walter showed up fashionably late, as always, driving his battered Ford Ranger like it was still 1994. He parked half on the grass and came out swinging a bag of buns over one shoulder. He hugged Lila first. Full hug, no half effort. Then he turned to Lorraine, shook her hand formally, like they were closing a deal. She smiled like she didn't know what to say. Then he faced Marissa, looked her up and down like he was checking measurements. "You quit yet?" he asked, squinting at her. "No, sir," she said, straightening her back. He grinned. Barely. "Good." Then he walked off to argue with Jay about grill temperature. I was flipping chicken when Victor showed up. He wasn't invited. Hadn't been in months. "Smelled burgers from the highway," he said, holding a cooler full of something probably nobody wanted. We used to be close. Legion ball, old yard shifts, pickup games in the parking lot after hours. Lately he'd been a ghost. Now he showed up like nothing had changed. I handed him a beer, mostly out of muscle memory. He leaned against the grill table and looked around like he was casing the place. "Your cousin's hiring out of your shop list," he said casually. "I could use contacts if you got 'em." My back stiffened. Our shop list was private. Names, availability, Prior certs, flag notes, you don't pass that around. I asked, "How would I know you need that?" He smiled like it was a joke. "You got gate codes tattooed on your brain, man." You always know he laughed. Alone. I didn't say anything, just watched him crack his beer and wander off to the drink station like nothing was wrong. Lila came over later, brushing potato salad off her arm from one of the kids running by. She leaned in close. "Watch Victor. He's not happy for you." I shrugged. "He's just bitter." She looked at me longer than I was comfortable with. "You're not listening," she said. That night, after we packed up and hauled the grills back into Walter's truck bed, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, thinking about Victor's cooler and that stupid line about gate codes. I should have listened harder. About a month after that picnic, I got a call at 2:47 a.m. from our overnight supervisor at Leominster. "Hey, nothing's missing," he said, "but someone tried the east gate again." Same spot, same time. That was the second time in 3 weeks. Nothing taken, no damage, just a smart attempt. Security light popped, motion sensor blocked with a piece of cardboard, like someone knew exactly where the blind spot was and exactly when our part-time guard took his 15. I didn't sleep after that. Got up, brewed a fresh pot, and pulled the access logs myself. Sat in the dark with my laptop and started lining up timestamps. Gate triggers, badged entries, motion sensors, cross-referencing with shifts. Looked clean on the surface, but I've done this long enough to know that clean doesn't mean safe. Then I saw it. During both windows, Victor had texted Marissa. Not vague texts either, specific ones. Asking if I was on site. Asking when the guard took his break. Nothing incriminating by itself, but it landed wrong. Too pointed. Too timed. She never answered them. No replies, no reaction. But I felt it. That punch in the gut when instinct and facts finally agree. I showed Lila first. Sat her down on the couch, phone in my hand, voice low. "She didn't respond," I said, "but he tried." Lila looked me straight in the face. "Ask her." I waited until after dinner. Kitchen cleared, dishwasher humming. Marissa was still in her work gear, hair tied back, eyes tired. I placed the phone down between us. "I need to see yours," I said. She didn't flinch, just handed it over without a word. I scrolled. No replies, no sent messages, just 2 unread texts from Victor, time-stamped and untouched. I nodded once. "Okay." Then I checked the building log, visitor access, and that's where it broke open. Someone had used a temp badge code tied to the Event Hall LLC. Not a general warehouse code, not one we'd handed out during Christmas temp season. This one was older, rarely used. Only 5 people ever had access to it. One of them was Victor, back when he decorated the hall as a favor for our anniversary party in 2007. I remembered it because he asked me twice about who managed the main gate system. Thought he was being nosy then. Turns out he was scouting. I sat with that a while. I wanted it not to be what it was. But I've spent half my life counting inventory. You don't argue with numbers. You follow the trail. I met Victor at a bar on Grafton Street, halfway between our old neighborhood and nowhere I ever go now. I didn't warn him. Just texted, "Beer?" And he showed. Still thought we were tight. He slid into the booth like he belonged there, cracked a dumb joke about how trucks don't park themselves, and started talking like nothing was off. I didn't waste time. "You passing along our yard routines?" He laughed. "Man, you always go full drama." It's just trucks. I didn't laugh. I stared. He leaned back, quiet now. "I didn't think it'd matter," he finally said. "It's meat and timing, not gold bars." They were going to take the soft loads, fence it to restaurants that don't want the tax markup. Easy money, in and out. Nobody gets hurt. He said it like it was a business pitch. Like I was supposed to nod and say, "Well, damn, why didn't I think of that?" I felt my whole body go cold. He kept talking, names, schedules, times he passed along shift details. He didn't hide anything. Part guilt, part like he wanted me to stop him. Like maybe if I punished him, it wouldn't feel like betrayal. I recorded it. I don't usually do that, but I did it then. I had to. I sent the file to Walter and our safety chief the next morning. No drama, no speeches, just facts. We didn't call the cops right away. First, we closed the gate, changed every access code, swapped out the temp badge system, reassigned dock protocols, retrained the guards. Then we called. Victor was picked up that Tuesday at 4:40 a.m., right before their next shipment was supposed to go out. Truck never showed. Nothing left the yard. Nobody got hurt. Victor texted me once after, just 2 words, "You ruined me." I typed back, "You did that." Then I stared at it, deleted it, and blocked him. There was nothing else worth saying. That night, at shift change, Marissa stood in front of the floor during the safety briefing while Jay explained the breach and the arrest. No names, no speculation, just the facts and the policy updates. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just nodded, adjusted her clipboard, and moved the meeting forward like it was any other night. That's how I knew she wasn't shaken. She was done breaking. A week later, we called a crew meeting in the break area off Dock 2, just before shift. Knights and swing came early, bundled in hoodies and worn jackets, smelling like coffee, cold air, and freezer gloves that never fully dry. Nobody sat. Nobody ever does. Walter stood next to me, arms crossed, hat still on like he'd forgotten he was indoors. He looked proud, yeah, but also tired. The kind of tired you get when you've built something and watched people almost wreck it. I told the crew straight. No names, no drama. Someone sold our routines. We changed them. We're fine now, but we don't forget nobody moved. That's how you know people are listening in our world. Silence. Then Marissa stepped forward, clipboard still in hand. No makeup, grease mark across one wrist. Her voice wasn't loud, just steady. I used to judge people by what they wore and where they lived. I was wrong. If you'll have me, I'm staying. No applause. That's not our style. A few nods. One guy grunted in approval. Someone handed her a Sharpie for the inbound board without saying a word. I pulled the envelope from my jacket and held it up. Effective next Monday, Marissa Keene is officially night shift supervisor, River Street, pay bump posted, expectations attached. She didn't cry, didn't hug me, just swallowed once, hard, and said, "I won't waste it." Jay muttered, "She earned it," and took a bite of his protein bar. From him, that's louder than clapping. Meeting ended. Everyone went back to pre-shift like normal. Boxes still needed moving. Routes still needed clearing. Later in the office, Lorraine came by carrying a crumpled brown paper bag. Set it on the desk like she was placing an offering on an altar. "I brought cookies," she said. "Made them myself." They were store-bought, still in the grocery box inside the bag. She looked at me, serious. "I misjudged you, Grant." I said, "You misjudged work." She nodded, honest for once. "Both." We didn't gloat. There's no win in rubbing it in. We did something better. We scheduled Marissa for the holiday surge calendar, gave her the lead on vendor audit prep in February, then handed her the training draft she'd written by herself in March and said, "Make it official." She did. That night, Lila and I celebrated at a diner out on Route 70. Still cash only. Vinyl booths, scratch tabletops, best damn pie in Worcester County. She touched my wrist and said, "You did the right thing back at the church." I said, "You did by not running." We ordered the pie. We didn't share it. We earned it. Last I heard, Victor moved to Florida. Charges got reduced, maybe pled down. I didn't chase the details. Some doors, you close, and you don't look back at the hinges. Every once in a while, Lorraine finds a way to drop into conversation that her son-in-law runs a logistics hub I let her. People are going to peacock. Doesn't mean you have to watch. But here's the part no one saw coming. The real payback. It wasn't when Marissa walked into that reception hall and realized who I was. Wasn't when Walter introduced himself to the Keens like he was drawing a line. It wasn't even when we caught Victor selling us out. The real payback was quieter. It was watching someone who once called me pathetic stand in a freezer at 2 a.m., count every case with frozen breath fogging her glasses, and send drivers out safe, shift after shift, no shortcuts. I don't need applause. I need the trucks to leave full and come back clean. And to go home to Lila, who saw me before anyone else did. If you need a bow on this, last spring Marissa bought a used Corolla, paid in cash, never posted a photo, never said a word about it. That told me everything I needed to know. People can change. You just have to give them a real job and a fair shot, and be ready to lock the gate when someone shows you who they are. Would you forgive a relative who humiliated you after they changed? Or cut ties? Drop a comment, even just good story or your take. If you'd like to support the channel, tap Super Thanks. It's optional, but really helps. And please like and subscribe. Huge for us, easy for you.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.